Hello everyone, these are my final notes on the FEC project and sort of an overview of like what I've been doing since the midpoint checkup of this project. So yeah, let's get right into it. Um, so after completing sort of all the main components of the project and making it sort of look like an Airbnb website, I realized there was like definitely some functionality of my component that made the website almost seem like a cheap website or like something that was it made it seem like a project rather than like a professional website. And sort of some of those issues that I noticed were like when I was rescaling the site, often it seemed like all of the components were sort of being scaled on like the same on the same units. It almost seemed like it was like a linear. Everything was on the same linear scale, and all the all the sort of elements were being like, as the page would grow shorter, it almost seemed like a picture that was shrinking in size. And I feel like that kind of doesn't give a good look for what a website should be. It should sort of be different components should be reacting in different ways to the changing in size of a website. So one way I sort of tried to fix this was like I would make sure that all of my components weren't reliant on my view height, which I tend to view height and view width, which was a unit I tended to use like quite often. And on top of that, one other thing I really noticed, and this wasn't so much a user issue, but something I noticed like when I was trying to add things into my code was like if I ever tried to add a component, or any coder would try to add a component into if in the situation where this would be like a real project and other coders would be sort of working on the same on my components, I realized it'd be very difficult for another coder to sort of add a new component into within my photo gallery component, because I had used a lot of flex boxes, and I feel like that didn't really work in terms of like making it an easy organization in terms of like the large scale organization of the website. And so I decided to switch from flex to grid because you have much more precise control over how your components are laid out. And so with the flexbox, I would often have like I would use a flexbox to like make two components have a good relation with each other in terms of positioning. But then when I'm adding new input components in, then it's sort of like the whole thing like almost breaks the whole structure of the organization of the website. Because of all of these like adding on new absolute positioned components. But with the flexbox, you're already determining a set space for a component, so like it's easy to like sort of move them around and sort of add new ones in. Um, yeah. Also, in some additional responsiveness I added to the website was um, the images, the way the images were scaling in my website, would kind of warp the way that the image looked, because the sort of scaling method I was using wasn't very good. So like at times, sometimes maybe the picture would be too wide for the div or for the box component that I created, or it would become too small, or sometimes the X and Y components were sort of being scaled differently from each other, and that would cause the proportions of the entire picture to sort of become warped. And I feel like that also added to like this cheap feeling of the website. So I really tried to make sure that the pictures looked presentable at all times when adjusting the page size. And also, I forgot to mention this earlier, but another good component of the grid functionality was now I could create multiple different layouts for a page. So depending on the size, and so I was able to implement like a sort of mobile layout for the page where I would only display a single image, and I feel like that it made the code a lot more versatile in terms of like how it could be used. But yeah, that's sort of all of the additions I added to my FEC project.